6 to 7 years. We have an alarming cancer rate and rate of cardiovascular diseases. We have 600,000 square meters of coastal landfills. Beirut has less than 1 square meter of green space per capita versus the world recommended average of 9 square meters. Increase in the city. And from numbers of dating back to 2013, this was costing the government $485 million a year in environmental degradation costs. Lebanon's forests are burning, as well as forests all over the world. So from wildfires and deforestation, of course, destroy large areas of mature forest ecosystems every year. Our urban areas are flooding. This is an image from a few months ago in December 2019. Again, like the lack of forest cover and the poor infrastructure have caused severe floods throughout the city. Air pollution has reached alarming levels. So basically over double than the recommended average set by the European Environment Agency's air quality standard. Temperatures are rising, so urban heat waves will only pose a greater challenge for cities in the coming decades. Urban centers can be, like at least 2 degrees hotter than surrounding rural areas. In Beirut, we found a 6 degrees Celsius increase, which induces a major negative health impact on people. And of course, in terms of CO2 pollution as well, by the use of more mechanical equipment for cooling in buildings. So how can designers create conditions to support other life? How can you build a network of local solutions that can have a global impact? Using nature-based solutions to solve urban problems. So nature-based solutions can be used in the city as an alternative to heavy and carbon-intensive infrastructural projects, providing human well-being as well as biodiversity benefits. Nature-based solutions are actions to protect, manage, and restore natural or modified ecosystems, addressing societal challenges and simultaneously providing human well-being and biodiversity benefits. Planting dense native forests for resilient cities is our proposal. So by implementing urban afforestation, we can regenerate degraded leftover lands into a shared space between humans, native fauna and flora. We can tackle urban flooding, reduce pollution, urban heat island effect, essentially working with nature to transition our cities to healthy and resilient communities. The benefits of urban forests are fighting climate change, filtering air pollutants, cooling cities, protecting biodiversity, birds and animals, managing urban floods, restoring the water cycle, improving physical and mental health, and it's cost-effective, requiring no maintenance or watering after 3 years. And we use the Japanese Miyawaki technique of forest making, which is scientifically proven to be the best ways for cities to mitigate climate crisis. Miyawaki forests are extremely dense, fast-growing native forests, which become completely maintenance-free within 3 years' time. They work in any environmental condition, from humid environments to deserts. And they can also, they're ideal solutions for cities because they can be grown in really small places. So the smallest forests we've worked on are 1 square meter to very big plots of lands. They also fulfill 3 of the UN SDG goals. So sustainable cities and communities, climate action, as well as life on land. And just to compare Miyawaki forests versus conventional landscaping, Miyawaki forests are 10 times faster in growth, 30 times denser, which means they sequester 30 times more CO2 and more pollution. They are 100% organic, completely biodiverse. So in Beirut, we have around 25 native species in that forest. We can have 400 trees and shrubs in 100 square meters, so extremely dense. They require half the investment, and they are water and maintenance free within 3 years. Comparing them to, I mean, just talking a bit about the problems of conventional reforestation, Miyawaki forests are, sorry, so the problems with conventional reforestation is that they are usually very low in biodiversity. So they usually rely on 1, 2, or 3 species only. So they're not really recreating the ecosystem. It's just added forest cover, but they don't act as a healthy ecosystem. Whereas the Miyawaki forests are multi-layered dense forests. They are composed of the canopy tree layer, the tallest trees, the tree layer, sub-tree layer, and even the shrub layer. So we identify and select trees and shrubs within all 4 categories so that we can really recreate a native ecosystem. Imagine if in urban cities, in urban centers, you could replace 6 parking spaces with 400 trees and shrubs. And these forests can be designed in any shape or form that we want. They could be completely off limits, or they could become public spaces. So it's really about the design intention. This forest in India was designed as in the shape of a leaf, with a walking and running path, quiet zones, benches, so on. This is a project we did in Beirut. So it was designed as a fence for a cemetery. So to really give like a belt or a buffer zone from the busy street that was just outside the cemetery, so we could recreate a quiet space for reflection inside the cemetery. We can integrate public artwork in those forests, as in this example in the US. They can be planted in the desert. So this is in the desert of Iran. You can see in just 2 years' time how the site has gone from completely barren to having trees that are 2 to 3 meters tall. And these will no longer need any watering after 3 years' time. In India, where the weather is more tropical, in just 18 months, you can see the before and after picture. If you notice the man in black inside the forest. So the forest is about 5 meters tall in just 18 months. They can also be designed as food forests. So integrating fruit species in there that can be then accessible for people to come and pick up fruits from this urban food forest. And they definitely, I mean, one of the important things is to involve the community and especially kids in the planting process and the maintenance as well. And this method has reached a lot of success in the Netherlands, where the government has supplied a very big budget to plant over 100 tiny forests throughout the Netherlands. So in 100 different parts of the Netherlands. So coming back to Beirut, we have planted the very first native urban forest in the region. It's a project that we implemented in partnership with A-Forest, which are our technical consultants based in India. And using local donors and individual donors, public-private partnerships. The site is in Sindelfeel, which is located in Greater Beirut. The area is 500 square meters, and we have 2,000 trees and shrubs in this area. So it's the area that you can see within the fence. And the idea is that this will become a public space once the forest is established and completely self-sufficient. So in 3 years' time. The fence is there at the beginning because we started without having a fence, but we had a lot of vandalism and people picking up the trees, which were very small, people putting fires and things like that. So the municipality fenced the site, but the agreement with them is that this would be removed in 3 years' time once the forest is resilient enough that it can withstand people going through it. And just in terms of the urban context, we decided to do our first intervention on the banks of the Beirut River, which was channelized into a concrete canal in 1968. So basically, it was turned from a natural ecosystem into a sewage infrastructure. So since we couldn't bring the river back to its natural state, we decided to bring back the forest ecosystem that used to run alongside the river. The forest making process, so we identify basically the site where where we actually want to plant in the city. And we locate native forest, a mature forest ecosystem that has been untouched, that is the closest to our site. So we go there with botanists and we make a survey of all the types of species of shrubs and trees that exist there. And we also note, it's a very scientific approach, so we also note not only the different species, but also the proportional mix. So are there more oaks than pine trees, more pines than arbutus, more arbutus than pistachio trees, and so on? Because this is what we recreate. This is the ecosystem relationship that we recreate in our site. We work on site excavation using heavy machinery. So the site is excavated to 1 meter deep. It is cleaned up with the help of volunteers. So this is how we engage the community. So the community is engaged all throughout the process from the beginning, and throughout the process of site selection, digging, cleaning up the soil from all debris. This used to be an urban landfill, so we cleaned up all sorts of plastic and metal, construction waste, all of that, which went for recycling. Then we prepare the land, we mark the design where the pathways are going to be and all of that. And finally, the planting, where we also invite a lot of people from the community and around to come and plant with us. And these people are kept engaged throughout the 2 to 3 years of maintenance that is required for the forest. So this can involve corporate teams from companies that are nearby, families and kids, the community. And so we're basically reconnecting the community to nature through positive action that is focused on learning and bonding. The maintenance, the forest requires regular watering in addition to de-weeding, remulching during the first 2 to 3 years. After that, no watering nor maintenance is needed. So watering is done at the beginning every single day, then every other day, twice a week, once a week, eventually once a month until we stop watering. De-weeding is done twice a month. So this is where we get most of our volunteers to help us with the de-weeding. Remulching, adding mulch to the land so it can retain moisture. Rope tying and compost tea, which is basically made from a local organic matter to inoculate the soil with beneficial microorganisms. So our way of engaging people is reclaiming urban landfills as public spaces. So that's why we see a lot of people from scouts to companies to public officials that come and want to be involved in the process. This is the native plant selection for our site. We have 2 types of oak, 1 type of pine tree, the Judas tree, which is in pink, 2 types of sage, lots of medicinal species, some edible species as well. So really a very big variety of species that we've identified in the native forest close to our site. And this is the first day of after planting. So you can see the saplings are about 10 to 15 centimeters tall. 3 months later, they're about 30 centimeters tall. 5 months later, some of the trees are 1.5 meters tall. 7 months later, 11 months later. And actually, yesterday marked the 1-year anniversary of our forest. So we were supposed to have a celebration on site, but given the current pandemic, we will be doing something later on in the year. Success indicators, we measure success by the growth rate. We expect 1 meter growth per year. We do a monthly growth report. So we've identified about 50 trees and shrubs that are tagged, and we measure them every single month, and we record their growth. Also, the success is in the forest soil, looking at the native fauna and the changes in biodiversity, the native insects and pollinators that appear back in the forest, mushrooms, earthworms, and all of these. So looking at the life teeming within the forest, trees, shrubs, birds, and insects find their way back into the city. By nurturing the degraded urban soil, we recreate its healthy microbial and fungal communities. So we bring the native ecosystem back to life. And the forest biodiversity will continue to develop native species will continue to find their way back to the city. We've already also started seeing birds that have come back to the site. And with birds come a lot of seeds from different parts and a lot of other insects as well. So in this past year, we've done 5 different forests. So we've planted 2,470 trees and shrubs in about 615 square meters in 5 different locations throughout the city. We've used 19 different native species. And we've won some awards and also got a lot of press. So which shows actually really like the need of people with like kind of reconnecting back to nature and having public spaces that are you know, not just meeting places, but actually places that can have a positive health impact on the people. So I leave you with this quote by the biomimicry founder: "What if our cities were as effective and generous as a forest, providing not only for ourselves, but for other species as well, in perfect balance with Earth's operating conditions?" Thank you very much.